Decoded, The Future of Health, hosted by Dr. Vinod Gauba and Alex Kummerman. Today's special guest is Dominik Thor, president of the Geneva College of Longevity Science and co-founder of Tomorrow Labs, discussing lifestyle intervention and education around longevity science.
It's with great pleasure that we have the chance to welcome Dr. Dominik Thor, who's the president of the Geneva College of Longevity Science, where they're working very hard to elevate the level of education and awareness in the domain of longevity medicine. He's also the co-founder of Tomorrow Labs, which is a biotech company pioneering cellular regeneration technologies. He bridges academia, industry to advance healthy aging solutions. Real pleasure to have you, Dominik, with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Dominic, tell us a little bit about what sort of brought you to this juncture in your life where you've had quite a diverse background, multi-industry, but you've ended up in education. So please guide us through and why longevity?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question, and I get it asked a lot. So by the students and of course other people in the area, because everybody has sort of a different background, right? Longevity medicine or longevity science is a very new field. So I originally started studying medicine. I later decided this is not for me. I went into economy and pharmacy. I saw myself more as the kind of startup guy, not so much treating patient, but rather doing research, building companies, something like that. And this is what I've been doing for a while. And I never lost touch with medicine. I kept my friends from university and I was curious to learn about what they have been up to. And I remember very vividly one of them, he went on to the US, did his postdoc studies at Stanford at a very fascinating laboratory spearheaded by Geoffrey Gertner, who is a well-known figure in regenerative medicine in the States. And he came back with some fascinating things that they did, modulating cellular pathways, really bringing back cellular function to a youthful state. So this is longevity, right? Bringing back the building blocks of our body to a point where they can perform what they are supposed to be doing, even as you grow older or you're sick. And this was to me a revelation. It was really interesting. I read about the studies. Of course, I had the background, right? I did a bit of medical studies, I did pharmacy. So I understood, okay, this is very impactful. And I have to say a few years later, I was proven right because not the study group, but the overall mechanism of HIF-1 alpha, this regenerative pathway, won the Nobel Prize in medicine. So what I told my friend is, okay, let's do something with this. Let's bring it into a different direction. So this was 2010, 11. So there was no longevity medicine around, no longevity science. They called it differently. It was regenerative medicine, right? So not longevity, regenerative. You know, there's a terminology problem. We still are discussing what is this all about? Ultra-personalized medicine, precision medicine, regenerative medicine, longevity medicine. I think overall it's a preventative approach to healthcare. And so coming back to the story, so they modulated this pathway. It was very interesting. It was about the cell actually having sort of a light switch. Whenever there is an issue with the cell, whether that's induced by damage, as in exterior damage, a wound, for instance, too much sun exposure, disease, or even age as a constant stressor of your cell, there is one mechanism that needs to be turned on. And then in a downward cascade, it activates up to 300 genes. This is HIF-1 alpha. Hypoxia-induced superfactor. It was first discovered in the context of not enough oxygen, hypoxia, but now we've seen that it's tremendously impactful in many ways. So they are researching in context of cancer and many other things. Back in the day, we decided, let's go the aesthetic route. Truth be told, there was no money for longevity, but the idea is the same, bringing back cellular function. And we developed products in this that are now patent protected in the US, in Europe. And I think it was a very interesting phase for me, working with many researchers from different leading clinics, not just Stanford, but a lot of I'm originally from Austria, working in Switzerland. So I'm more in the German ecosystem, so to speak. So we worked with the Technical University of Munich and many other researchers. So this was really interesting. And it got me sparked, right? It was about bringing back functionality to our body. So there are powerful mechanisms that help us, even as we grow older, to retain our vitality, to be able to do the things that we love. And I think around that time also the longevity as a term started to become more popular in the States. Mostly coming out from California. And this is when I got involved, was interested, reading up on the subject, saw there were more, popular literature books coming out, scientists talking about it. And at some point I said, okay, I want to be involved. And maybe back in that day, I didn't know exactly in what capacity, but I'm very happy to say that I found my place now.
Fantastic. And could you now start to share a bit more about what you're currently doing and how the Geneva College for Longevity has been driving you here and how is it going now?
Happy to. So back in these days when we were essentially just researchers working together, being inspired what's happening outside, of our own field, but more into the overall regenerative medicine, longevity field of science, reading what these guys have been doing on different pathways and looking into geroprotectors or suppressors, modulating aging, working, of course, very often in a preclinical phase on animal models or so. So this has kind of inspired us, and we've been talking, these guys, most of them are doctors, my background is pharmacy, talking to the medical universities saying, guys, we think this is very interesting. We should be looking into this, right, from an academic point of view, because it's always very important to first make sure this is safe and it's effective. And you can only do so through clinical studies. And university laboratories are very powerful because you have lots of people there that are working there, young people that are motivated. It's not so much about money, but rather making your name in research. So it's a fantastic atmosphere. And the feedback from the traditional universities was a bit disheartening. It was positive, as in we are interested in what's being done here, but at the same time, it didn't really fit their educational agenda because they are educating doctors and medical doctors. They do medical interventions, and especially so back in the days, but even now, our array of medical intervention is still limited. A lot of what we do in longevity science is lifestyle intervention, things that are super important for us. We always knew that it's important to be active, to do sports, to eat clean. But maybe we didn't really understand why is this the case, right? We were looking for our genes and saying, oh, essentially this is the way we're made up, and took that as an excuse. And now we know exactly that the things that we do on every day, that our conscious decision really forms our ability to grow old in a healthy fashion. And essentially this all led down to the path that we at some point decided, okay, if nobody's interested in taking a 360-degree approach to this topic, then probably we need a new kind of university to do so, a private school. And what sounded a bit absurd in the beginning was actually, it was difficult, but it was feasible. We looked for the best place to do it. So we were Europeans, most of us. So we looked around in Europe, and we found Switzerland as the best place to do it. Switzerland stands for fantastic medical innovation with great companies coming from there, some of them speaking at our event here. It also stands for education. It stands for health. So it has the highest life expectancy in Europe. And it has actually a pretty good ecosystem around longevity these days. And I think in terms of the ability of the ministry and the government of accepting new ideas, it's also very forward thinking. So the feedback that we got is, well, I'm now rephrasing it, but essentially it was, guys, we got no clue what you're doing, but if you're doing it well, we are happy if it's being done in Switzerland, which I think is a very, very good way of doing things, right? So our job was to do it in the best possible way, getting leading scientists involved, trying to look for people from all sorts of backgrounds, because again, it's not just focusing on the pharmaceutical/medical intervention. We are looking at all the different factors that are relevant to growing old in a healthy fashion, improving really what we call a health span, right? So, of course, it's nice to have extra years to your life, but we want to add life to these extra years. We want to be healthy. We want to do the things that we love, have a purpose in life, really, a meaning. And this, of course, then includes things like mental health, brain aging, psychological factors. Out of fun, we even looked at religion, whether that plays a role in longevity. So many things, and we wanted to have sort of an 360-degree approach to it. And this is what we realized in the Geneva College of Longevity Science. We're very proud that since 1 year, we are offering a master's degree in this. It's a postgraduate degree, an executive master's. And for the simple reason being that most people interested in the field, they have some prior link to it. Very often it's medical doctors. So I get called up by clinics looking for good physicians that are well versed in what we call longevity medicine, or doctors that want to go into private practice, into that direction, coming from different backgrounds. So it's very hard to define what a longevity physician is in terms of his or her specialty. We have general practitioners, we have dermatologists, we had plastic surgeons speaking. There were some good arguments be made for internal medicine specialists being ideal longevity physicians because they are used to spending a lot of time talking to their patients. So, it's been an incredible journey, and it's very rewarding, and it's fantastic to be here in UAE because this is a place where a lot of things are happening at the moment, especially in the context of longevity science and medicine, both in terms of regulatory investment, new clinics. So I'm soaking it all up, and we are trying to help people, to maybe up the game a little bit if we can.
Look, it's wonderful to have you here. And the GCLS offers the world's first executive masters in longevity science. And how does the program propose to bridge the gaps between academia, between industry and clinical practice?
Oh yeah, that's an excellent question. So the way it's built, as I said, consists out of 10 courses covering, the whole spectrum. And we even go into things like regulatory market, the financial implications of longevity, because the way that our healthcare system is built, especially in Europe, this is not something that we can keep up in this form. So there are inherent problems. We need a more preventative approach. We need people to understand that they, on a personal level, but also we as a society, need to invest early into our health so we can stay healthy. Because people don't have as many kids anymore. Who's going to look after us as we grow older? We need to be able to do it ourselves, and we cannot expect the government to pay for all of that. It's simply not possible. But of course, we hope that the government will start funding this research and these initiatives, and that we may be able to change our way how we incentivize the healthcare system. It should be about keeping people healthy and not just treating them when they have a disease or a problem arising. So that said, we try to really bring all the stakeholders into the discussion, and this is why we intentionally created a program that is 75% of our students at the moment are doctors, but it's open to people without a medical background as well. We have regulators, we have policymakers, we have investors, people from all kinds of backgrounds, really. And I think this is super important, and I'm always very happy if we get somebody from these kind of professions involved and interested, because it's a bit harder. But of course, it's a natural flow of things. You have the patients that read about this, that listen to podcasts, that see the Netflix shows. They're interested, they're going to that physician, asking questions, and then the physician says, well, maybe I need to get up to speed, and those reach out to us. But of course, it's other people that are now coming into this, lots of industries. So there are, I think, big opportunities for wellness, hospitality, beauty even, but it should be done right. So if we get a chance to help people, to get a proper education and root the things that they are doing in science, having clinical proof of their claims, etc., I think this is beneficial to everybody.
No, it's very interesting how your entrepreneurial journey, gets to feed the education system, because normally, entrepreneurs are more driven by commercial success. And in your case, you're placing education on the top of the agenda, which is very remarkable. And in the scope of what you teach today at the school, or what's covered by this master, what's the role, or what's the place of technology? How technology is part of the cursus or of the program, and how do you see AI, which is, the same question could be asked for any master degree program, where now students start to use ChatGPT to write their own thesis about. How does it play a role, and how do you approach that in the context of longevity, which is by essence very new and that has no precedent to be feeding the model to be learned about?
True. Well, I think, again, lots of good points here that I would like to cover. So I think for me, the thing about AI is, of course, it's applicable to everything that we do. The good thing about longevity medicine, or what it's meant to be, I think, diagnostics play an important role. When you go to a longevity physician, typically you want to grow old, right? This is the thesis. You don't want to die. And for that, I think we have to establish your baseline scenario. So what is your health at the moment? Are we looking at any immediate problems that we need to cater to? So this is probably what we think of as traditional medicine, right? So is there any immediate issue, whether it's cardiovascular or cancer or any other of the other most prevalent problems that we might be facing that could endanger our lives? And we establish that. But we need these, diagnostic tools, not just to establish the baseline. We need to do continuous testing to see if the treatments that the patients are there for are working. And of course, it's a complex topic because it covers so many things. Multi-omics approach, right? We are not just talking about one thing. We're not just having you go there once treatment, but you have to come back regularly. The doctor needs to continuously alter what they are doing as you grow older. So maybe take a simple example. Think about workouts, fitness, right? So I think we learned that it's not about building muscle in order to impress somebody, but you want to counter sarcopenia, this muscle loss that we experience as we grow older. And of course, you still need to be able to do your groceries every day. You carry around stuff. So you need to train for that. But as you grow older, of course, things go maybe a little bit more brittle, the bones, etc. So you change your training. You need more recovery time. And this is the same with medical intervention. As you grow older, maybe the targets change and you need to assess these through biomarkers. And we have so many ways to do it that we need help to make sense of that fast. And AI can be a wonderful tool for this.
Yeah, okay. And is it already integrated in the program or not yet? Just to get a sense of how the scope of the program itself.
So yeah, definitely. We are covering the role of AI and machine learning. Very often it's just machine learning and not full AI in order to support doctors and the ecosystem and essentially everybody. We had wonderful talks on people that are building very clever tools for clinics, but they can be also used in different settings. Essentially, it's about bringing the doctor home or making the job easier for the doctor and for patients to get educated. So I think that is wonderful. We are covering this. We're covering, I think, many of the gadgets that we have today. I think not 100% of them are going to be hugely impactful. Sometimes it's simple stuff. There can be an argument about whether you need something that tells you whether you have slept well or if you're anyway experiencing this when you wake up. So I typically know that I didn't sleep well if that was to be the case. But of course, people are, we are creatures of habit, and changing habits is so difficult. And this is also what longevity intervention is all about, changing our habits. Even if we have access to, processed sugar, unhealthy foods, to stay away from that, to get up in the morning and maybe do some sports and stretching. And I think this is where many of these apps, they can help us. They can remind us, they can gamify the experience, they can make it a bit more fun than it actually is. So I think they play an important role in this ecosystem.
And I suppose it's also about prioritization, right? And knowing once you layer in genetics and epigenetics and all this richness of information, that can help create a more prioritized, personalized experience, right? And is that something you sort of delve into, this concept of personalization and precision prevention, as I like to use that term, or optimization? Is that something?
No, absolutely. I mean, that's for sure. That no people are alike, and we need to really tailor any sort of intervention to the individual. This is super important. And again, this is where we need the diagnostics to really find out who is going to react to which intervention the best. And I think all of these tools, they have something to be said for them. But you always need, as I think, the central communicator, the doctor, right? And he also has a team of experts that can help him along, because typically when they tell you you should be eating clean and you should be working out, these are important aspects, but they are not necessarily taking you by the hand and showing you how to cook a healthy meal. I think many doctors don't follow their own advice on these points. So you need other experts. And so the doctor is like the guy coordinating all of this. He's working with testing laboratories. He has maybe a staff of people that can help, the patient to really get the most out of it, of the whole experience. And he can use these gadgets to stay in touch with the patient, or maybe give them some guidance when he's not around, because it's really it's a constant thing.
And I think this also, following on the explosion of hardware and software and tech and AI that's come into the realm of longevity.
Yeah.
Do you see the future longevity practitioner effectively being a longevity technologist to a large extent?
Well, to some degree, right? Of course, this is changing. I know that a lot of doctors, they don't like to embrace technology as such. But I think if you apply it in the right way, it certainly can ease your life as a physician. It can make it a bit easier. You can even appear more clever than you are, because this is a great way to accumulate data and make sense out of it. And it can be a great help for the patient. Of course, it's a complex topic, because then you talk about data privacy and all these other things, and I'm not an expert on this. And truth be told, this is why you asked before why I went into education. So actually, it's because I like to learn myself. I'm probably the guy most benefiting from GCLS, because I'm learning new stuff every day. I say I'm not a researcher, I'm a teacher. This is my primary role. So I have more clever people than I am that do the teaching and do the research, and I absorb all of this and I try to help people along. And it's a lot of fun. It's actually more fun than promoting products, and because I've been in sales before. This is hard work. So for me, being in academia is a wonderful experience, because you get to meet a lot of people that are very driven. Very often they're very successful. So we have students that are both part of the student body and the faculty. We have students that come here, speak at the event, that are clinical directors at Roche, global companies, really in the pharmaceutical world, that are now slowly entering the longevity space. It's a fascinating field, and it's so much fun. And again, constantly learning something.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful to see this, this juxtaposition and blurring the lines, but at the same time between the sick care and the healthcare, and how interventions in the healthcare can be free and just driven by our own agenda, and on the other side, what the sick care is able to do and just promote our health with support from medication, and the blurred lines that are appearing between those two universes are actually a fantastic field of teaching and discoveries. How do you intend to keep it separate, or what's the strategy here?
That's great. So I think we all make it up as we go along. That's the truth of it, because we have these very fruitful discussions at events such as like this one and many others, where we are defining things. We're at a very early stage, right? And we have to overcome maybe a lot of misconceptions about longevity. One of them maybe having to do with the terminology, right? It's not just about living longer. It's about improving quality of life. And yes, if we can get additional healthy years, wonderful, but it's really making the most out of what we are given, and understanding that we can, decide on a daily basis of what's going to happen with us as we grow older, improving our chances to grow old in a healthy fashion. And there are tons of discussions about, guidelines about who should be accrediting whom, who should have the responsibility of caring for patients, which kind of doctor should be the specialist here. And sometimes it can appear a bit harsh. But what I like at these events is that ultimately you see everybody is pulling into the same direction. So the overall goal is the same, and maybe people imagine different routes going there. But in the end, it's just important that we arrive at the ultimate goal, and that is, improving healthcare in general. And there is definitely no wrong or right way going about it, as long as, we reach that goal in the end. So traditional medicine is extremely important. Public health has gotten us to a point where we now see a pretty impressive average lifespan in many developed countries. But of course, there are areas in the world where maybe longevity medicine is quoted as being required when we just need public health and traditional medicine, because it can change so many things. So of course, when you offer education, you want to make it as accessible as possible with as many doctors joining. But of course, it comes with some tuition costs. And this is why we also have a program where we onboard doctors from Africa for free, a scholarship program, which is important to us. And also that there is India as a huge market, I think, interesting because they have been in Ayurveda medicine or even traditional Chinese medicine, many of those substances where we now have clinical data or working on finding that it's influencing longevity and health span, have been used for a long time, and it's also blended and interconnected. I think we just have to work together, and again, this is, I think, why we need longevity medicine or science to guide us along. It should be coordinated efforts, not every specialty working on their own.
And it's sort of unlocking ancient wisdom and marrying it with modern technology, biotechnology, modern therapeutics, and AI and machine learning and technology. It's a whole melange, as we would say.
This is why we need so many experts helping me along, because again, in most of these things, I'm but a novice. I'm learning every day, and it's fascinating to hear these experts speaking. And then it's really funny because again, they very often say, "Oh yeah, I'm focused in this area, but I want to learn about the others. So can I join both as a student, as a faculty member?" And we're very happy, of course, if that's the case.
Fantastic. And then just going back to the name, when you were deciding Geneva College of Longevity Science, and now you explained Geneva, we get it's a college. But why longevity and not health span? There's a controversy around the name, I know, but since you've had a chance to sort of reset the definition of the term in a sense, what made you choose longevity?
Well, I'm happy if we can contribute to the discussion and the quality of education. Unfortunately, I don't see our role yet as impactful that we can reset or redefine anything. But we're happy to be part of that. And you're right. So there are different people having different notions about whether it should be good to speak about, health span or if longevity is okay. I think either way, we have to do a lot of explaining as we go along, right? If we talk about health span, we have to explain what it is all about. If we talk about longevity or healthy longevity, as it's very often called, we also need to define that. So therefore, at some point, we just said, let's stick with what we think is the most popular term at the moment. We want people to find us. We are mostly growing through our network, so we are not doing any advertising. We love to be at conferences like this one. It's a free one, so we are not charging money for that. I know there are many more out there that have impressive speaker lineups. They pay for it. They want money. Of course, it's a business and it's great. But I think we have a slightly different approach to things, and it works for us. Maybe in the future, if at some point, longevity medicine gets replaced by health span medicine, we might have to reconsider. But right now, I think we're very happy with the name and where we are at, and happy to do it in Switzerland. People, sometimes it's a misconception that people always think the grass is greener on the other side. But there is much to be said that is positive about Switzerland and the way that we deal with healthcare there. Of course, we have our discussions hoping to get more awareness for what we are doing. But the problem is, out of my 4 grandparents, 3 lived beyond 95. So when people ask me, why are you doing this? I mean, we already reached that point. I'm saying that's not true. It's about, the morbidity when people grow old, that they are facing years of their life that are maybe not so nice. And this is something that we primarily want to target. But of course, and when we look to other places in the world where we don't see that average life expectancy that we do in Switzerland, there's so much that needs to be done, and it should be done in a way that's safe and effective and healthy. And I think if we can filter the noise, this is maybe the most important mission that we have a team of experts, if I may call the faculty like that help us filter and sift through all that, look at what's happening in research, maybe highlight what can be applied today and differentiate between what is preclinical and clinical. So people going to these conferences, they are amazed by what's happening in the laboratories, and rightly so. These are very clever people spending a lot of their time looking into potential new therapeutic means. But then again, they are applied on model organisms. They are not yet ready to be used on humans. There is not enough proof that they are safe or effective. And this is something where, of course, then suddenly maybe doctors, in their private practice are approached by patients saying, listen, I heard about this. Why can't you make that accessible for me? And so education, I think, is very important on all levels, not just educating doctors, educating healthcare professionals and the wider population. And if we can contribute to that in any way, then we're happy to work with companies. Of course, the field of longevity science is driven by private investments. As of now, we hope to see more investments from the state, from government entities. Hope this is going to be the case in the future. But until that is not the case, we are happy also to try and work with the industry. Although, of course, the guidelines in Swiss Academy, they are pretty strict. So you have to be sure that you're not endorsing one thing over the rest. You need to remain objective and neutral. So yeah, it's fun interacting with all these players.
Yeah. In the scope of the partnerships that you are looking at doing with the private sector, how broad are you looking at it? I mean, for example, we can see that there are some natural connection between the luxury industry and the longevity industry. How does the institute approach that?
Well, I have to say that we haven't been approached by the luxury industry so far. I mean, I would have to agree that the biggest luxury that we have is time. And if there is something where we get additional time, then that could be something nice. And I see that some of the longevity clinics are associated themselves with luxury. And of course, any sort of precision medicine is expensive because we ask these doctors to spend a lot of time with us and with our cases. So, of course, money comes into this. But again, that is a tricky discussion because really this should be something that is accessible to everybody, not reserved for a select few. And the more money that goes into research and into developing new methods, I think will end up changing this, making it cheaper and more accessible. When we train more doctors, more people will profit. But I mean, the companies we typically work with are in some research way related to what we are doing, right? So either it's companies that develop new tests or maybe new products, not even drugs, doesn't have to be the case, could be other physical therapies. So we are looking for partnerships in terms of education, research. This is what we're here for. It's not development of products as such, but of course looking into that, whether they can have a positive impact. If there is a way to do that, very happy to do so. But again, under the confines of this educational character that our institute carries. So you must never give off the impression that you are trying to sell something. That's not our job. We want to educate. We want to give access to that.
So if someone's listening to this and they're curious about enhancing their knowledge in the longevity science space, they're not sure whether a master's is relevant for them. They think maybe that's a bit too much. Where do I start? How far is it going to go into in terms of depth? What advice can you give them in terms of their pre-application journey, if you like? And then how can they position themselves to be successful, to be included in a cohort at GCLS?
Excellent question. So the funny thing is that typically those people that come in touch with us, but maybe this is going to change the more people hear about longevity, but those people that come in touch with us, they have typically some root, some connection to it. So they know pretty well why they are interested in continuing education, right? Either they are doctors that want to go deeper into this field, or maybe they're in some adjacent field. They're looking to build a company. They're looking to invest and thereby want to better understand what it's all about. Maybe they're in regulatory. So it really is a private person just saying, oh, I want to optimize my health. So these guys, of course, they are looking at podcasts, at literature that's available. There's some very popular books written by physicians, whether that's Peter Attia or some others that are highly popular. And of course, this, I think, could be a very first way to get immersed into this. The problem being, if you consume information that's publicly available, it's not vetted, right? So you can go on YouTube and you can find amazing content, right, in the terms of quality of research, but it can be also pretty bogus and some guy just claiming to be an expert. And when it, of course, concerns your health, it can be risky, right? So my advice is don't believe everybody. Do your research. Look at what is the background of that person. And the deeper you go, and if you still have an interest, maybe at some point you realize, okay, maybe you actually need academic education. So what we are right now offering is a master's degree. It's a 1-year study program. So this is a considerable investment in terms of time, right? And that you need to spend on that. And typically it's for people that want to do something out of that, not just out of personal interest. Of course, we also do have our webinars that are open to the public so they can listen in to what our experts have to say. We are now going into continuing medical education, so focused a bit less on the theoretical science, let's say, but rather the practical application in a clinical setting, which is a bit different. And this is therefore also a bit more concise. I think we will offer more in that direction. So we start with this board-certified longevity physician program, and there will be additional ways to specialize, maybe going into women's health or mental health. So there are many things that we can cover in this context that go beyond just the basics, I would say. And we also want to go into professional training at some point, because again, there are many industries that want to make use of longevity because it seems to be a trend. But if we can do something about it, we want it to be done in a proper fashion, right? So I think this is going to be benefiting both the patient, or let's call it the consumer in this case, and the companies, because if they have a strong USP, people will come back, and those people that come back will have also some personal advantage, personal gain, ideally a better health. So this is what we are all there for. If we can also inform the public, that's great. So we, of course, enjoy, all of our faculty, myself included, doing podcasts like this one, because I think through that we reach people that we don't normally engage with, and that's important. Also, our conferences are open to the public very often, so people can come and join and inform themselves. I mean, sometimes the topics are a bit scientific, so it's not always easy to follow up, but the way that we build our materials, we try to make them accessible to people even without a medical background. We hope it's working, so we're constantly asking for feedback on that, and maybe we can improve further.
So it's really a beautiful community that you're creating in the longevity space, and congratulations on that. And it clearly sounds like there's a very exciting future trajectory for the college, and we wish you all the best, very best of luck. And thank you so much for spending your time with us today, and we hope to continue the conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and thanks for the great questions.
Thank you, Thor.
Thank you.